Hello everybody, my name is Tuppence. I'm going to be playing today with a bunch of moulds. So most of these are like pendant moulds. This one is a gemstone mould. It's got lots of little shapes on there. This one is an earring mould. And I think I got this when I bought some UV resin. It came as part of a kit, as did most of these. If I can find any of them, I will link them in the description box below. So I'm going to be using some UV resin to create something fun. I'm going to start with this circle mould. It's a circle within a circle. So I need to put some UV resin into my cup and mix up some glitter with that. I'm using a brand called Limino, and I've just put it into this bottle. It was a spare bottle I had because it comes in a huge bottle. So it's a little cold here today and it's a little bit thick, but I'm going to be mixing some of this hex glitter. It's like a bronze coloured hex glitter. So I'm going to pour that in. It is so pretty. And I'll give that a quick stir around. You can see how thick that is. Yeah, so I think I'm actually going to give this a quick heat with my heat gun just to make that a little bit more liquid. Otherwise that's never going to flow around the bottom of the mould and I'm far more likely to have bubbles. I'll just give this a quick heat, and I don't really want to blast that into the cup for very long. After all, the glitter is plastic. So you can see that is a lot more liquid now. And now I just need to pour it into my mould. I'm not filling this up, I just need a layer on the bottom. I do want to try and make sure that I've got all of the glitter covering the bottom. This is going to be my colour, I'm not adding any colour to this layer. So I'll just scrape the last little bit out. Then I can poke that around. Make sure that I distribute all of that glitter across the bottom. I'm going to give it another quick blast of heat. Just remove any bubbles. I'm going to cure this partly with my torch before I pick this up so that I don't spill it. This mould is pretty floppy. And then I'm going to transfer this underneath my dual-sided lamp and cure it. That's all nice and cured now, so I can take it out of the mould. I'm just going to pop that out from the back, and I still only have this one layer in there. Let's have a look. Oh, that looks really nice. Beautiful glitter. Okay, I want to fill that hole in the middle, and I can't really stick this on bezel tape, so I'm going to grab myself a mould and push it down on top of the mould, and then I can fill that up. The reason that I can't put this onto bezel tape is that because I've only put one layer in there, not filled the mould, it's kind of uneven on the back. In fact, this is particularly uneven, so I'm just going to take my nail file and try and smooth that out a little bit. I am going to be coating the back, so I'm not worried about any scuff marks that I make, but I just want to make sure this is pretty flat and I can get a nice seal when I push it down onto the back of the mould. Right, I've just cleaned off the dust and now I can fill this up. So I'm going to be pushing it down on the back of another mould. I've just flipped a mould over. I do have a very small bubble there, but that's okay. I'll fill that in a minute. So I'm going to need to mix up some more resin, and I'm going to use some of this gold mica for this. So I'm going to pop a little bit of resin into my cup. And again, I'm going to use my heat gun to make that a little bit more fluid. And then I can add the mica. I was going to tip it in, but I've thought better of that. So I'm just going to spoon that in. I don't need very much. Mix that in. Make sure all of the powder is mixed in. And that's the other advantage of making that warmer. It does help the powder mix in a little better. And now I can pour some into that circle. I'm pushing down the pendant pretty firmly onto that mould, trying to make a good seal. Then I can take my microbrush stick, go around the edge, make sure that that makes contact with all the edge. And I'll use my torch to partially cure this, just trying to make a seal before I lift this up. Okay, let's have a look. That should be enough. So it hasn't cured all the way through, that's fine. I'll just cure this on the back. But it has made a skin or a shield across the bottom so that I can carry on and fill this up. I'm just going to clean that off with a baby wipe. Get rid of that. And now I can carry on filling up this section and it won't run through the back. So I'll get this level with surface. And then I can put this underneath my double-sided lamp. Okay, that is all nice and cured, and I've now got my base. So I'm going to move on to this mould now. It's a gemstone mould. There's lots of different shapes on there. I want to use the two on the end. So first of all, I want to make this shape. It's almost like a kidney shape, and I want that to be red. So I've got this resin dye from Let's Resin. I need a very small amount, so I'm going to put a drop on my table, and I'm going to mix my resin with that colour on the table. Got my silicone mat down so it makes a pretty good palette. So again, just another drop. This is going to be more than I need to fill that gem. So I'll mix the colour together, and it's looking a little bit pale, but I'm not going to add any more colourant to it, otherwise it's just not going to cure. So I'm going to drop that into the mould, and I want to make sure that this is filled up so that it's level with the surface. Just give it a quick poke around, make sure that it gets all the way to the bottom. It looks like there's a little bubble in there. I might as well fill up the other two pieces that I need. So I'm just going to give this a partial cure, and then I can fill up the other two cavities, and then I'll be able to pop it underneath my lamp once I've got it all together. I need 2 of the teardrops, and I'm just going to fill that with the same UV resin and gold mica mix that I used for that central hole on the pendant. Make sure they're level, and then I'll pop all of this underneath the lamp to cure. So these are cured now. I'm going to pop them out of the mould. That is going to be a nose, and these are going to be ears. Let me get that out of the way. I just need to pop that in place, and then these will be the ears on the top. It's very tiny, and I've got very big fingers, so it's not easy to maneuver them into position. Oh, cute. So I wish these were a little bit bigger, but I don't have anything bigger than this, so they'll have to do. So at the moment this is looking a little bit like a bear, but that is not what I'm making. I'm going to put a blob of UV resin on here, and then I can put the nose on top and cure that. And I'm not going to worry if any of that resin seeps out, because I will be giving this whole thing a top coat of resin at the end. So I'll just put that in place. It is seeping out around the edges, and that's fine. And then I'm going to put a blob onto my silicone mould, pick it up, and I'm just going to place that where the seam, where they meet, where the ear and the other bit meet, and again I'm going to cure those in place. I'm also going to add a little bit of resin along the top edge by the ears, just to make sure that they are well stuck, and then I'll pop the whole thing underneath the UV lamp to make sure that it's properly cured. So this is pretty much looking like a bear, well, a bear with a very red nose. I'm going to take a little bit of black UV nail gel, and I'm just putting some on my dotting tool so I can make 2 eyes. Dot that onto the resin. Make it nice and round, and there we go, he's got some eyes, and then I can cure that with a torch. Well, now I need to change this bear into a reindeer, so I'm going to be using this mould. It's an earring mould, and I want to use the Monstera leaf. So I think the fronds, if I just use part of that, that's going to look a bit like the reindeer antlers. I need to mix up a little bit more of that gold mica and the UV resin. And then I can start to fill this mould, but I'm only going to fill part of it, as I said. Make sure that is all mixed in. Just going to put the lid on before I knock that flying. I need my torch at ready. And I'm going to build a dam first. So I'm going to start by just drawing a little bit of resin onto the mould and curing it with the torch straight away so that it doesn't move. I'm going to keep building it up until I get some height on it. Then I can backfill this, and hopefully I'm going to end up with a small pair of antlers. I'm just going to use my stick to fill those tiny spaces up, make sure that there aren't any bubbles, and then I'm going to cure that. Okay, now I'm ready to pop this out, and it is going to be a little bit of an odd shape. It's not very even, but that's okay, I can sort that out. I'm going to need another one, but because this is an earring mould, I'm going to have one that is the opposite, and I'll do that in a minute. I just need to tidy this up a little bit first. So I'm going to use a file, and I'm just going to take off the sharp edges on the side, the little points that I didn't need. And then I can add a little bit more resin so that I can dome it and make it a better shape, a nice rounded shape. I made a second antler using the other earring mould, and this gave me one that is opposite. I'm going to attach them using some UV resin. I'll apply that again at the seam where it meets the head and cure those in place. Then I'm going to add a layer of UV resin to the back. I'm using the same one with the gold mica, and spread that out till it covers everything, including the join where the antlers and the ears are. Before I cure it, I'm just going to put a magnet onto the back. Make sure that that pushed down really well into that resin. I need to position it at the top in between the antlers. And then I'm going to pop this underneath the lamp and cure it for 5 minutes. As I was making that reindeer, I said I thought that it looked a bit like a bear, so I decided to make a polar bear. I repeated making that circle pendant using some of the glitter and some white pearlescent UV. Now I'm going to add a touch of red pigment to the rest of that pearlescent mica, and I can use this to fill in the hole, and this is going to be the muzzle of the bear. And I'll use the black UV nail gel to create the eyes and the nose. Then I'll use some more UV resin to attach the ears. Then I'll flip it over and I'll add some UV resin onto the back to strengthen the bond between the ears and the head, and so that I can attach another magnet. I've made a snowman, I've made a polar bear, and I've made a reindeer. Rudolph, because he's got a red nose. Now I'm going to cover this with a layer of UV resin that will protect the face markings, but it will also make this look a little bit more like fused glass. I'm going to use a brush to brush this out. I'll make sure that I coat the whole of the top, and then I'll pop these under the lamp and cure them for 5 minutes. So I've used part of the monstera leaf from this earring mould. I've used a couple of gems, this kidney shaped one and the teardrop ones, and I've used these 2 different pendants to create 3 magnets. I'm going to call them my pendant pals. You've got a polar bear, you've got Rudolph, and you've got a snowman. I hope you've liked this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, comment, share and subscribe. You can find me here. You can also find me if you use the QR code. You'll be able to subscribe to my channel. It's free, and you'll be able to come back and see what I'm going to make next time. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.